Hi everyone, so in this lesson we're going to focus on cross-price elasticity of demand. Again, we're going to take this right to the top level so that you can really write a cracking A-star D1 essay on this. Okay, let's take a look then. So cross-price elasticity of demand measures the responsiveness of demand for good A following a change in the price of good B. Okay, now we can see this this notion highlighted here. Once again, we have queens over princes, so that is quantity demanded over price. Cross elasticity of demand equals the percentage change in quantity demanded of good A divided by the percentage change in price of good B. Okay, so we've seen this sort of formula before, very, very similar. The only difference is we have two products because we're really trying to understand how a change in price can govern the quantity demanded and influence the quantity demanded of other goods. Okay, so let's take a little example here. If we consider a price change in beef perhaps and say that the price of beef has risen by 10%, so we have an increase in the price of beef of 10%. What sort of impact may that have on the demand for lamb, so the quantity demanded of lamb, which is going to be our good A? Well, because there is a degree of substitutability and they are relatively close substitutes, we might see a 20% increase in the quantity demanded of lamb in this instance. So that would therefore feed through to a positive cross elasticity of demand of +2. Okay, this means that they're relatively close substitutes. Okay, let's just have a little look at the coefficient values and what they actually mean. So we can see that a positive value really highlights the fact that they are likely to be very relatable substitutes, particularly when that value is high, i.e. greater than 1. If it's above 0, but less than 1, it's likely to be relatively weak in terms of that cross-price elasticity of demand. So if beef prices went up by 10% and demand for perhaps chicken increased by 5%, then you'd see obviously a 0.5 cross elasticity of demand, and that would suggest that they are likely to be weak substitutes. There is a degree of substitutability, but they are not really close substitutes. Okay, now if, however, we consider another instance here, perhaps again we can look at the change in the price of beef. So again we've got 10% change in the price of beef. How may this affect the demand for tennis rackets perhaps? Well, in all likelihood there's likely to be a 0% change there, and of course you would then end up with a 0 value, and that shows that there is no relationship between those products. Okay, so again, relatively straightforward. Now, if we also just think about complementary goods, goods that actually go together, so for instance we might see that if beef goes up by 10% in price, then the demand for mustard perhaps falls by 20%, and therefore we would see from this a relationship of -2, a cross-price elasticity of demand of -2. This of course would be our negative value and would highlight the fact that they are complementary goods. They are goods which go together. Tennis rackets and tennis balls is another prime example there. Okay, so that's what the coefficients mean. You need to make sure that you remember this little table. That's really quite significant. But it's also important to remember what impact this is likely to have on the demand curve for good A. So in this instance, I'm dealing with substitute products. Okay, so we've got impact of a price change for beef on the demand for lamb. So if there is a price change of beef on the demand for lamb, and as we've said that is an increase in the price of beef of 10%, then there may well be that increase in demand for lamb here, and we can see that therefore demand rises for lamb up to P2 and Q2 in terms of the quantity demanded. Okay, so the equilibrium quantity demanded increases significantly in this case. All right, so once again, unlike where we saw price elasticity of demand, where we saw a movement along the demand curve, we are again dealing with a shift in demand, okay? And it's worthwhile noting that if you get an essay on elasticities, okay? Right, so what are the commercial uses of cross-price elasticity of demand? Well, of course, it enables you to consider the substitutes, and that can help to determine price levels. So if a particular good has no close substitute products, then it's more likely that you can actually charge a very, very high price. So that is an interesting point. If you think about iPhone and their latest iPhone X launch, which of course is the first four-figure phone priced at £1,000, starting at £1,000 I think and above. Well, really what they're just hoping for there is the most loyal Apple followers who do not believe there is a close substitute to those Apple products. They're going to be very affluent, those consumers, and Apple expects firmly that only a minority of their customers will actually buy that top of the range iPhone, but it is catering towards that top level where they don't perceive any substitutes. Okay, so that can really help in determining those price levels. Okay, it can also help to determine likely promotional activities that you want to conduct. So for instance, if you really want to show how your product is different from other products, well, you clearly need to inform your consumers, and that informative advertising can be far more beneficial, because it may help to actually reduce the degree of substitutability as consumers perceive that product, because they're better informed, because they better understand the usage and differentiating aspects of your product. Okay, it could also be about a loss leader strategy as well. So commonly, of course, used in the games console industry, where the main product, the actual console, is sold at a loss often, but then they really do charge a high price for those complementary goods, those goods that go alongside that product. So therefore, if you reduce the price of this good, let's just run through this, it's really interesting to consider. If you reduce the price by 10% of the games console, then it may well, of course, mean that demand increases by 20% for your games, okay, or for accessories such as controllers or whatever else goes with it. Okay, and then finally, you can also look to increase revenue by ensuring that you have complementary goods in stock and perhaps located in the same areas as the products that they go next to. So you'll often see, for instance, in supermarkets, on the actual butcher's area where the meat products are, that there may well be complementary sauce mixes that are on the actual top counter level as well to go with those products. Okay, so once again, that can help to ensure that the supermarket, the business in particular, is generating more income. All right, okay, great stuff, guys. Again, sophisticated points. Most candidates won't know how to do this, all right, but you guys will. Thanks a lot.